Guys, do subscribe the Gate Hunt and press the bell icon to receive notifications on latest jobs updates, Gate talks and video lectures on Gate and IES. Hi guys, welcome to this 10th lecture of Ethics in Engineering Profession for IES. So guys, today we will be starting with the 4th chapter. So before starting the 4th chapter, I am going to discuss a small topic here, which is self-realization ethics. So what is the meaning of this self-realization ethics? It means action taken for self-satisfaction is right action. So this meaning can be interpreted in two ways. So the first interpretation of this meaning of self-realization ethics is that even when we are following this philosophy or ethics, then we should care for our relations with others and community. And the second interpretation is called ethical egoism. So the second interpretation of this self-realization ethics is that we should always keep on doing for ourselves and we should not bother about others. So these are the two interpretations which are made from this meaning of self-realization ethics. Guys, moving on, now let's discuss the 4th chapter, and the fourth chapter is about theories of right action, or in short we can say ethical theories. So this is a very short chapter, however this is a long chapter, but for IES point of view only some basic points are needed to be considered in this chapter. So in this chapter we shall be discussing various theories of right or ethical action. So the set of theories which we are going to discuss are utilitarian theory of ethics, rights ethics theories and virtue ethics theories. So guys, first of all let's discuss about utilitarian theory. So this theory was given by Mr. Jeremy Bentham. So basic focus of this utilitarian theory is consequences of our actions decides their morality. So the ethical principle to be followed according to this theory is maximum benefit of maximum number of people. But guys, there were some problems identified with this utilitarian theory. So the first problem was, before action is taken, consequences can't be determined with certainty. And the second problem was, what is best for most of the people may be worst for an individual or a group. So these 2 points were not considered in the utilitarian theory given by Mr. Jeremy Bentham. So Mr. Richard Brandt gave some modification in this utilitarian theory given by Mr. Jeremy Bentham. And he said that our actions following some general rule, it brings some positive consequences for most of the people, then our actions are moral. So earlier utilitarian theory was talking about only actions and consequences, but Mr. Richard Brandt brought the concept of general rules which must be followed to act moral. Guys, moving on, now let's talk about various rights ethics theories. So as per these theories, if we take actions for the sake of somebody's rights, then those actions are moral actions. So these theories were given by these two scholars. First one was Immanuel Kant and second one was John Locke. So according to Immanuel Kant, human beings must not be manipulated. So if some action is taken which is causing manipulation of human beings, then it is immoral as per rights ethic theory given by Immanuel Kant. Moreover, Immanuel Kant says that human beings have right to choose on the basis of their free rational thinking. So this free rational thinking means thinking independent of others' interference on what we should do and what we should not do. So we have a right to choose on our own thinking that what is good for us and what is bad to us. So as per Immanuel Kant, various rights of human beings are right to access truth, right of privacy, right of not to be injured and right to what is agreed. So this right to what is agreed means that demanding fulfillment of a promise is right of a person. Guys, moving on, as per the rights ethic theory given by John Locke said if our actions are respecting rights of others, then we can say our actions are moral. And as per John Locke, every human being have right to life, right to liberty and right to property. Guys, moving on, now let's talk about the third type of ethical theories, that is virtue ethics theories. So this virtue here means an excellent trait of character. So if all the traits are excellent in a human being, then only we can say that the person is a virtuous person. For example, if a person follows the principle that honesty is the best policy, by doing some calculations in his mind that by not being honest he might fall into some trouble, then we can't say that the person is virtuous, because a person can be called virtuous only if he is following honesty just because he loves being honest without any calculations. So, as per this virtue ethics theories, an action is moral only if it is the action which a virtuous person would take in similar circumstances. So guys, now let's talk about the fifth chapter of ethics in engineering profession. So the fifth chapter is codes of ethics. So guys, various features of codes of ethics are that a code of ethics does not represent a legal document. So it means a code of ethics is not a legal document. Moving on, the second feature is that for violation of code of ethics, professionals don't lose right to practice their profession. So it means if we violate code of ethics of the profession in which we are doing our work, then we may be expelled from the association whose under we are. But just the expulsion by the association would not snatch from you the right to practice your profession. So guys, moving on, the third feature of code of ethics is that codes of ethics don't represent any new morals. So it means associations or companies don't generate or create their new moral principles. They just compile different moral principles taken from different sources which they feels will lead to the prosperity of their association. So guys, first of all, I told you what code of ethics don't represent. So now I will tell you that what code of ethics represent. So a code of ethics represents, the first point is that codes of ethics explains rights and duties of members of a profession. Moving on, the second point says that the codes of ethics are established by associations of professionals, by regulatory bodies, so that is by sometimes even by government. These codes of ethics are established. So for example, like ECI, so this ECI stands for Engineering Council of India. So in ECI we have members from profession and from government. Moving on, these codes of ethics are also established by corporations. So guys, the third point says that initially codes of ethics used to discuss or include only standard business requirements like competence and non-disclosure of proprietary information. So here this proprietary information means organizational information. So initially these codes of ethics were based on only on the profit of the organization, but later on this public welfare aspect have been added later on in these codes of ethics. Guys, moving on, the fourth point says that components of codes of ethics are, the first component is conducting a profession with integrity, with honesty and in a competence manner. So this competence manner means that education of the profession should be there, continuous updation should be there, and taking work only in the area of expertise. Moving on, the second component of codes of ethics is obligations towards employers and clients, and the third component of codes of ethics is responsibility towards public. So any code of ethic can be divided into these three parts. So one part will be about competence of the profession, Second part will be about obligations towards employers and clients, and the third part will be about responsibility towards public. Guys, do hit the like button and do subscribe the Gate Hunt and press the bell icon to receive notifications on latest jobs updates, Gate talks and video lectures on Gate and IES.